In March of 2011, parts of Japan were devastated by a horrific earthquake and tsunami, which took the lives of 15,894 people. I'm haunted and moved by one story of grieving that emerged from those unimaginable losses. Atsuchi is a quiet town on the Japanese coast, about 350 miles northeast of Tokyo. It had a population of about 16,000 people in 2010, with an economy that was dominated by the presence of fishermen who operated out of the town's port. Of the 16,000, 10% of the town were either confirmed dead or missing after the tsunami. The scope of the loss for this tiny town is incomprehensible. The town's grieving was magnified by the nature of the loss. Like all unexpected disasters, the good people of Atsuchi never had the chance to say goodbye to any of their loved ones. A 70-year-old landscape architect from Atsuchi named Itaru Sasaki, who was struggling with the loss of his cousin, had an idea. In his beautiful garden, which enjoys a picturesque view of the sea below, Mr. Sasaki built a small structure that looks like an old-fashioned British telephone booth. It has glass panels on all four sides. Inside the booth, he placed a black rotary telephone. The phone does not function. There is no working phone service in the booth. Yet Itaru Sasaki's phone booth has become an international site of pilgrimage for the brokenhearted. Since he opened his garden to the public in 2012, more than 25,000 people have visited. They come because the booth gives them permission to pick up the phone and call their dead. The booth is therapeutic. It gives folks a chance to process their grief tangibly, out loud, and in private. Cultural anthropologists are quick to point out that Eastern religious traditions have long venerated communication with and worship of the dead. But what about Judaism? Could such a phone booth ever find a place in a Jewish garden? The more I've thought about Itaru Sasaki and his wind telephone, as it has become known, the more I've thought about it as an object that embodies extraordinary Jewish values and spiritual energy. For one thing, there's the role that the booth plays in remembering and honoring the dead. I don't have to tell you, those who have taken time out of this day to be here for Yizkor on Yom Kippur, I don't have to tell you that Judaism is a tradition of memory. Our obligations to the deceased do not end when their burial or memorial service is complete. We hold on to the fullness of our grief for 7 days, and we hold on to some of that pain for the remainder of the first 30 days, and we hold on to some of that shock for the remainder of the first year, and then we revisit our losses for Yizkor 4 times a year, and on the yahrzeit once a year, and we put up a stone for each of them to memorialize their final resting places, and we look at their pictures, and we tell stories about them, we cherish their objects as family heirlooms, we give to the causes that spoke to them, and we strive to imitate the best of who they were. We name our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren after them. We remember them. And so Itaru Sasaki's phone booth is a blessing because it gives people in mourning permission to remember. But Judaism also affirms the value of our speaking out loud if we're so inclined, or silently if that's more in our comfort zone, to our loved ones. We know this from the age-old custom of reciting Kaddish, according to Jewish law, for 11, and some say 12 months for our parents, and 30 days for everyone else we're close to. The literature of our tradition primarily thinks of Kaddish as a chance for us to speak to and with God. It's a litany of praise to God. And there's a more contemporary reading that suggests that Kaddish is really about ourselves. Its recitation gives us a chance each day to stop, catch our breath, process our feelings, and remember. Kaddish, in this sense, has little to do with God and everything to do with us. But there's a third reading of Kaddish, that its recitation is akin to picking up Itaru Suzuki's black rotary phone. It's us reaching out with love and with hope, doing our part to initiate a real conversation with our dead, because there's always value in telling those we're closest to that we love them, that we miss them, that we need them. We don't just act this value out when we recite Kaddish. There's also a beautiful custom that comes out of our Eastern European pre-modern canon of female ritual practice. Ashkenazi women have long chosen to make soul candles, which were then lovingly brought to illuminate the synagogue on Kol Nidre. Our female ancestors would recite techinas, Yiddish prayers composed by women for women, in which they would pray for their deceased loved ones, but they'd also pray to their loved ones, entering into conversation with them, bringing them up to speed on what was happening in their world, and asking the souls of their loved ones to bring healing and hope and good to them and to the rest of the world. Just like Itaru Suzuki's phone booth, our recitation of Kaddish and our remembrance of loved ones can take the form of conversation, dialogue, and heartfelt prayer to the ones we've lost. I so wish that I had a magical phone booth that I could share with you, one that had a line that could literally connect us with the loved ones who have gone before us. I don't have such a phone, but I do have the Jewish version. I have a soul candle. We light our own soul candle now, kindled in memory of all those whom we've loved and whom we've lost. As we call out to them, we hope and we pray that their loving presence will safely carry us into the new year ahead. And we offer up a contemporary techina adapted from the Israeli poet Chaya Kaplan Lester. Please, God, let me light more than flame today, more than wax and wick and sliver stick of wood, more than shallow stream of words recited from a pocketbook, but rather with this touch of torch and spell of prayer, let me light a way towards you. Let me dare to radiate a rapt request that with this lamp the world will rest, a stilling hand on pounding heart, and take a breath, a pause, to start to appreciate the state of things just as they are. On this Shabbat of Shabbats, rest us well in humbling fact that we are made replete with lacks. The future's but an ornament on bounding limbs of present tense, all force and foist of fists and fights, flooded out by candlelight incandescent with acceptance, allowance made for imperfections, we offer up our rest, forbearance on our table set. So as sun sets, we raise a blaze, resplendently we offer praise. As light leans in and grips go lax, our ache for future slips into our hurting past. Arrival, a candle, impatience in vain. The world to come has come, and come undone by flame. We continue now with our Yizkor service, page 540 of our Machzor.